A giant that now dominates global entertainment and rakes in billions of dollars was born from a wooden cube that burned food. Japan's tech empire started with an absolute commercial flop. Welcome to Plexo. May 1946. A dusty workshop on the third floor of the Shirakiya department store in Tokyo, still devastated by bombings. Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita, with an initial capital of 190,000 yen, founded Tokyo Tsushin Kojo. Amid a severe post-war food shortage, the two engineers decided to build a home appliance. They constructed a crude device, a wooden bucket fitted with aluminum electrodes, designed to boil water using electric current. It was the company's first rice cooker. But the invention was a monumental disaster. Depending on the water and grain type, the cooker either left the rice raw or ended up as a charred wooden bucket with burnt rice stuck to the electrodes. No one wanted to buy it. The product never hit the mass market, and the founders had to rethink their strategy. Instead of giving up, Ibuka and Morita realized the key wasn't basic home appliances but high technology. They started repairing damaged radios and manufacturing voltmeters for the Japanese government. This radical pivot, away from wood and toward circuits, set the stage for a financial gamble that would change 20th century industrial history. The company that couldn't boil rice was about to electrify the world. Akio Morita, a sharp-eyed man with hair always combed back with impeccable precision, understood that Japan couldn't survive by copying Western technology. They needed to innovate from scratch. In 1952, his partner Masaru Ibuka traveled to the United States. There he discovered that Bell Labs, owned by Western Electric, was licensing a new technology called the transistor. American engineers underestimated this tiny germanium component. They thought it was only good for making hearing aids for the deaf, because it couldn't handle the high frequencies needed for a radio. But Ibuka saw the future. He convinced Morita to risk the company's capital, and in 1954, they handed a $25,000 check to Bell executives to buy the patent rights. It was a suicide bet. The small Japanese company spent nearly a year deciphering the technical schematics and perfecting the manufacturing process. Against all odds, in August 1955, they pulled off the impossible. They launched the TR-55, Japan's first transistor radio. It was compact, elegant, and portable, freeing listeners from heavy, fragile vacuum tubes. To conquer the international market, Morita knew something crucial: the company's original name was unpronounceable for Westerners. Inspired by the Latin word for sound, they rebranded the company in 1958 with a short, catchy name. Sony was born. With their new identity and a miniaturized technology that Americans had underestimated, the two Japanese engineers packed their bags to cross the Pacific. For the giants of American electronics, the clock was already ticking, and they didn't even notice. In the 1960s, the color TV market had undisputed owners. It was dominated by American titans like RCA and Zenith. These corporations controlled the patents, dictated prices, and seemed invulnerable on their home turf. But Sony had a plan to destroy them from within. American TVs used a 3-beam electron gun system. This mechanism often produced blurry images and misaligned colors. Sony's engineers, obsessed with perfection, worked in secret to develop a completely different architecture. In 1968, they unleashed their deadliest weapon on the global market. They introduced the KV1310, the first TV equipped with Trinitron technology. The system used a single electron gun with an aperture grill that let more light pass through. The result was an unprecedented visual impact. Consumers walking down New York's Fifth Avenue stopped in awe. They stared at a bright glass screen that emitted an intense red in the store window with astonishing clarity. This made RCA's TVs look like dull antiques. Thanks to Trinitron's quality, Sony could charge prices above the market average, breaking the stigma that Japanese products were cheap and disposable. Suddenly, the label "Made in Japan" changed meaning. It became a symbol of status and high fidelity. American companies, confident in their historic monopoly, reacted slowly. They underestimated the Asian threat, believing consumers would stay loyal to local brands. The Japanese Trojan horse, silent but lethal, was already installed in millions of American living rooms, and no one inside those corporations wanted to see it. The arrival of Trinitron, with its superior technology, triggered a corporate massacre in the industrial heart of the United States. During the 1970s and 1980s, Sony's technical edge exposed the structural weaknesses of American companies, which had been stuck in complacency for decades. In 1964, domestic manufacturers produced 94% of all color TVs sold in the country. By 1987, that number had collapsed to a humiliating 17%. RCA, the company that had practically invented the commercial broadcasting industry, began to bleed financially. Zenith, the other historic giant, tried to compete by cutting prices and outsourcing components, but couldn't match Japanese precision engineering. The physical impact of this defeat was devastating for the local economy. Industrial cities watched, their factories shut down one by one. To picture the bleakest image of this decline, you only had to look at the massive chains and rusty padlocks. They locked the doors of Zenith's assembly plants in Chicago, leaving thousands of workers on the street. While American executives blamed trade policies and begged for government protection, Sony kept devouring market share, with exorbitant profit margins. The U.S. consumer electronics industry, once the pride of the nation, was reduced to ashes. Traditional brands were sold off piece by piece to foreign conglomerates, or disappeared entirely. Morita and Ibuka hadn't just won the commercial battle, they had humiliated the original inventors of the market. Relentless innovation had crushed corporate bureaucracy, no matter the size of the rival. The verdict was irreversible. With the television industry under its absolute control, Sony prepared its final blow to redefine global pop culture. In 1979, the company launched a device that would forever change humanity's relationship with sound. The Walkman wasn't a technical necessity, it was a sociological invention. Morita wanted to listen to classical music during his frequent transatlantic flights, so he ordered his engineers to create a portable cassette player without a recording function. Marketing experts warned that a device that only played sound would be an absolute failure. But Morita trusted his gut. The success was overwhelming, across every continent. Soon, the entire world was filled with a new urban tribe. The image of a teenager skating with orange foam headphones, connected to a silver metal box, became the definitive icon of the 1980s. By 1989, Sony had sold 100 million Walkman units worldwide. Over its entire history, it also placed about 200 million cassette units globally. The company, born in a bombed-out corner of Tokyo, transformed into a titanic conglomerate, spanning from Hollywood film studios to the creation of the PlayStation console in 1994. Ibuka and Morita built an impregnable empire, wiping out Western corporations that had once looked down on them. Sony didn't defeat America with better products, it exploited the arrogance of an empire that mistook its glorious past for a perpetual right to the future.